Hey everyone, again, I'm on the Samsung S10 and I'm very impressed with the Samsung built-in camera. Right now I have it on Pro. If you just have it on video, there's not too much to do. It's very similar to, the iPhone, where you can turn on the flash, you can have, you know, super steady put on. You can change from to 16 by 9. Um, you can do full HD, you can do HD. I believe HD is 1280 by 720, full HD is 1920 by 1080, and then you can go up to Ultra HD, which is your 4K. And then, you can put on filters, if you like, and then you get into settings, you can have advanced recording options, which is basically you can reduce your file, but it creates that HEVC format, which is not acceptable by a lot of places yet. And then you can also turn on this HDR10 plus videos, which adds contrast and color to the rear camera, which is what you're using when you're shooting videos. I have both of those off. I do have the video stabilization on, which is good. You can do tracking autofocus if you want, so that as you can key it on a subject, and then as you're panning following that subject will always stay in focus. You can turn on grid lines. You can click on the shooting methods, and there's some options there. I'm leaving pretty much everything alone. I keep the shutter sound off, and it's very, very basic, very, very basic. And I was a little, unsure of it when I was looking at apps. But one of the things I discovered is if you click on more, now you'll see over to the left it says Pro and it's got the shutter. That's Pro Photography, which is really a fantastic option if you need to do stills. It gives you more control over, you can see your white balance, manual focus, your exposure, your speed, your f-stop, so your shutter speed, your f-stop, your ISO. And there's also on the left-hand side a timer. You can also turn on the center, you know, options so that if it's centered and if it's leveled or not. And if you hit the circle over here, it gives you some more options like contrast, highlights. And basically what it does is it allows you to move it by 1 or 2 points. So if you want to have your image a little bit more contrast, you think it's a little bit flat, you can, bring this down a couple of points. You can adjust your highlights. If your brights are a little too bright, you can bring them down, or if you want to bump them up a little bit. Same thing with the shadows, saturation, tint, and then color temperature. And I say all of this, and the reason I'm going into details is because some of the things you may be doing is taking photographs of historical pieces or artifacts, or you're doing a story on something, on someone or a building from the 1800s, and all you have is photographs. It's good to know that you can adjust your photographs. If we go back to the Pro video, I'm very impressed with this. I'm very disappointed in the Apple one. You can see I can look at in the bottom left-hand corner of my picture, I can see my audio levels. So I know if I'm talking too loud or not. Again, the settings are exactly the same. You can turn the flash on. We really are shooting in 16 by 9 when you're shooting 1280 by 720. And so that's the one that you want to keep. You have more options here for your video choices. HD, I believe, is 1280 by 720. Full HD is probably the 1920 by 1080. Again, I'm going to have to look into that. You can turn on and off your scope up there in the upper left-hand corner, which lets you know whether your image is balanced or not, too bright or too dark. It's basically a level, it's basically a level graph, I guess you could say. And so your darks are on the right and your brights are on the left. And so this is a pretty good balanced shot, by the way that looks. And so if we go over to our right side with all those yellow text, if we start at the top on the mic, obviously it's an Omni mic coming out of the camera, but if I had a wired mic plugged in, it would recognize it, and also the Bluetooth. And what's really neat is that you can lower or increase your volume. I think that's really awesome. If I click on the arrow over here to the right, it'll bring me back to my settings. I can adjust my white balance. And as soon as I start moving it, you can see that it adjusts your white balance. And notice that, you know, the image turns completely blue or completely yellow. And the reason I'm mentioning this is because I am going to get into some of the settings on the contrast and the tint. You can, you know, change your shutter speed. And, you know, you can change your ISO, which is really nice. And if I click on the circle with all the divisions on the left-hand side, you can see I can also adjust my contrast. So if I want to lighten up my contrast or darken my contrast, obviously that's extreme, but I just kind of wanted you to be able to see what it looked like. I can adjust my highlights. So if it's a little too bright or a little too dark, I can adjust my shadows. So if I want to deepen my darks a little bit, you know, I would bring it up to a positive. A negative lightens it. And then the saturation, if I wanted a little bit more saturation, whoops, I lost that. I wanted a little bit more saturation, I could add a little bit more saturation. And this is what I really wanted to show you is the tint. And so you can tint your video so you can make it a little bit more blue or a little bit more red. And if we go up, it makes it a little bit red. And if we bring it down, it adds a little bit of blue. In this particular shot, it's making it look a little green. But, and then, you know, and they do that in filmmaking a lot. So red adds warmth, it can add anger, blue adds coolness, sadness, dankness. And it's just enough that it just adds a little bit of red to it, but it doesn't cause everything to look red. And then you can adjust your color temperature here too, a little bit. If you think it's a little blue, you could add a little red to it. And then obviously the white circle, big white circle with the red dot in it, allows you to record. And as soon as I do, you can see the time code going there. So I'm really impressed with this. The Samsung and Google Pix have a camera like this, app like this. If you don't have a Samsung or a Google Pix, then the other camera apps that I have mentioned before are a good choice for you. If you have any questions, you can let me know. And I'm going to see if I can turn this bad boy off now.